I've made nearly more mistakes than I've had hot dinners in the mistakes that we've had running businesses. But overall, I don't think there's a lot that I would do differently, because the lessons from those mistakes have helped me become better at what I'm doing. And particularly when I first started going out in business at the age of 23, there's probably about 4 businesses that I started and ran that I really just didn't have a clue. And they either fell apart or stopped working or just completely abandoned them, until we got onto something that was a bit more serious. And I think a big part of that was accepting accountability and saying, at the point where you're running a business and you have serious financial investment in it, and some of it's other people's money, and you're taking on people that you're employing, and so you're dealing with other people's livelihoods and other people's lives, that's at the point where the risk of mistakes carries a lot more weight, and therefore you become much more careful about that. But it's only experience that you have up to that point. And sure, even today, make mistakes. People in big business are still making mistakes. But it's through mistakes that you learn, and as long as you have a culture that's open to that and acceptable to that. And the reason that people fall over is because they did something wrong. And it was famously said at the Institute of Directors National Conference by Michael Johnson that, success is the elimination of error. And if you experience an error and you work to eliminate that, that makes you better the next time, so that error doesn't occur. And eventually you'll get to the point where you have ultimately a perfect performance.
The biggest mistake, and most entrepreneurs would agree that they or we make it, is trying to be all things to all people. So in those early stages, you want to be a great leader, you need to deliver exceptional services to your clients, and because you're smaller, you've got to look faster, smarter, better than the big competitors, and then you have all the legislative things you need to look after as well. So if you try to be all things to all people, you'll burn out. And I think I was lucky in that one of my early mentors said to me, you don't have to be everything, focus on the things that you're good at, build a team around you, or outsource those activities where a professional company such as an accounting firm can do that work for you. So that would be the greatest, potential for mistake, but also learning.
Mistakes that I've made that I've learned from, I think a good example is when you join a new organisation, and in the military we change organisations quite regularly, but as you do in business now. I think there's a real danger sometimes of lacking a bit of humility in your first engagement with people and laying out your stall, thinking, I've thought about this is how it's going to be. And I remember doing a presentation to a group of people I was going to be in command of, and thinking I had it all swept away and nailed. And realising after I'd done that presentation that actually I'd come across as overbearing, not presenting a window to listen straight away. And I think what I said was probably correct, but the way it was done lacked humility. And I think for me, I walked away from that and just felt myself cringe at my own performance. And I think that's a very good thing to learn from.
My, I think, mistake in hindsight, and often you only realize them in hindsight, was having stayed too long with a certain company and too long in the same role. I think it's very easy once you're in your comfort zone to stay there, and you still find millions of excuses to say, yes, but the next project will come along, and yes, now I know everybody, and ooh, it would be a huge investment to just go somewhere else and have to rebuild my whole network. But ultimately, you're not really growing anymore as a person. And in hindsight, I sort of changed there probably 2 or 3 years earlier than I did. So I think that's a lesson learned, and hopefully having learned off that for the future as well.
Is there anything I'd do differently if I was starting out again? I think that everything you do, you learn in life, or you learn from it. So the key thing is possibly respond quickly to the lessons you learn and share responsibility. I think also include people who are important to you in your life in some of your decision-making processes. So in our example, my husband stopped work to raise our children, and that freed me to grow a global business, but it also freed him to participate in the lives of our children, which from the other side of it, he would have had a corporate life. He thinks his life has been incredibly rich and fantastic for the change. So I think never assume that there's only one way of doing things. If you go back and think about all the options, brainstorm all the possibilities, because you'll come up with some good ideas.